Coming up on Tech News Today, California goes after the Bitcoin Foundation. Facebook working on a Flipboard knockoff, maybe. Sony and Disney testing same-day streaming of movies you see in theaters. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, June 24th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with colleagues and clients from anywhere. You can share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use promo code TNT. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website, blog, portfolio, or online store. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT6. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Jason Howell.
Ayaz Akhtar has the day off. He'll be back tomorrow, but we're still going to introduce you to the top tech news stories of the day, starting with the top 10 in the news feed. The Wall Street Journal added their voice to the numerous reports that Facebook has spent more than a year building a mobile app to display Facebook content, mostly from the news feed, in a visual format similar to Flipboard. The product is reportedly referred to internally as Reader.
Amazing. How'd they come up with that name? Samsung's new Galaxy Tab 3 line has gotten U.S. availability and pricing. We've got $199, $299, and $399 for the Galaxy Tab 7, 8, and 10.1, respectively. They'll be available from retailers, including Best Buy, Fry's, and Amazon, starting on July 7th. Pre-orders are starting tomorrow, June 25th. Both the Tab 8 and the 10.1 get Android 4.2 and bigger processors, while the 7 runs Android 4.1 and has half the onboard storage with 8 gigabytes, though all 3 are expandable via microSDs.
Yeah, those are some cheap tablets. You might need that because your kids may be spending all your money on in-app purchases. Apple began notifying parents of children who amass large in-app purchase bills that they have until January 13th, 2014 to claim a $5 iTunes gift card or possibly restitution for amounts larger than $30. The program is the outcome of a class action lawsuit over how in-app purchases used to work.
The mysterious company behind the $700 million Project Mountain data center in Des Moines, Iowa, has finally revealed itself. Microsoft!
What?
Yeah. Last Friday, the Iowa Economic Development Authority Board approved a $20 million in-tax credit incentive for Microsoft. The company plans to invest $677.6 million into a data center in West Des Moines. Microsoft's investment will likely be used to expand the company's existing data center in the region.
Go Iowa. As we get closer to July 1st and the demise of Google Reader, more options are emerging. AOL Reader Beta has officially opened up. To sign up, go to reader.aol.com. You can even use Google to sign in if that makes you feel more at home, or Twitter or Facebook, or, of course, your AOL account.
Disney and Sony have begun testing a new on-demand service in South Korea that offers movies to rent while they're still playing in theaters, reports the Wall Street Journal. That the two companies are the first U.S. studios to provide consumers anywhere with the option to buy a ticket to see a movie or watch it in their home using their cable or their internet or their satellite TV subscription. Django Unchained, Wreck-It Ralph, and Brave have all been made available as part of the trial.
HP showed off a new all-in-one PC that runs Android 4.2.2 at an event in Beijing. The HP Slate 21 has a 21.5-inch 1920 by 1080 screen and an NVIDIA Tegra 4 system on a chip. No price or availability were announced. Acer also showed an Android PC at Computex earlier this month. I call that a trend.
Google has confirmed that it has indeed been contacted by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission regarding the acquisition of mapping application Waze. Google earlier this month said it was buying Waze in a deal that gave it new tools to help users navigate through traffic with their smartphones. Google's used to stuff like this, though. Regulators from around the world are watching with bated breath as it expands its product lineup and moves into new areas like mobile technology. The company underwent regulatory approval, probably similar to the Waze regulatory sniffing around, but in the U.S. and other countries for its $12.4 billion acquisition of handset maker Motorola Mobility.
And Google buys a sandwich, the FTC jumps in. Takes them a long time to get their sandwich. Bitcoin Foundation, a nonprofit organization that oversees the virtual currency, received a cease and desist letter from the state of California. The letter says Bitcoin may be engaged in money transmissions without a license, and that's against the law. John Matanis of Bitcoin's board of directors wrote in Forbes that the Bitcoin Foundation does not engage, own, control, or conduct money transmissions. They don't know what they're talking about.
About 6 million Facebook users have unwittingly shared private information because of a little bug in the social networking services database system. The flaw was discovered at the end of last week and had been exposing the email addresses and phone numbers of these users. The bug was discovered through Facebook's White Hat program, which includes security people outside of the company as well as internal people who are watching for problems like this. Facebook disabled the DIY tool, then brought it back online over the weekend after the bug had been fixed.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
I'm so shocked. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix. Summer's almost here. Weather's great. Kids are out of school. So many beaches and lakes and fun places you want to be, but you got work. And you don't want to be at work, but you got work to do. Well, we can fix all that. Business doesn't stop. Doesn't mean that you have to stay at home. You can escape the office and stay connected to your coworkers and clients, share ideas, solve problems, get projects done using GoToMeeting with HD Faces. It's a powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate online. Just takes a click, share your screen, work on documents in real time. All you need is a webcam. You can use it on your iPad if you want. Make your online meeting an HD video conference. See each other face to face. It's like you're meeting in person. You can see people's expressions. You can tell if they're understanding what you're talking about. You can easily launch or join a meeting from wherever you are. Run a presentation. Yeah, you can run a presentation from your iPad. Personally, I use it all the time. We use it on Twit meetings to get to know people, talk about things, work things out with clients. You should just try it, though. Try GoToMeeting for free for 30 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and use the promo code TNT. Remember, use the promo code TNT. GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. And we thank Citrix and GoToMeeting for their support of Tech News Today. Joining us now to discuss the stories of the day, very happy to have David Spark of Spark Media Solutions back on the show. How's it going, David?
It is going very well. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Let's start mining that Bitcoin story for comments. See what
I see what you did there. Yeah.
So yeah, California's Department of Financial Institutions sent that cease and desist we heard about in the news fuse. Interestingly, that Forbes article that was written by one of Bitcoin's board of directors, John Matanis, pointed out that Bitcoin ran a Future of Payments conference in San Jose recently. So they obviously waited until after they were done spending money on the conference before they sent the cease and desist to Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin Foundation, if you don't know, it's in charge of overseeing the system of Bitcoins. And if you want a good explanation of Bitcoin, go look up the Security Now episode with Steve Gibson. He does a great explanation of what this all is. But essentially, it's an encrypted and secure creation of a coin that is online and virtual that is probably close to impossible to be counterfeited. So it can be used as a secure payment. And it's also untrackable, or at least it's very difficult to track. So a lot of governments are very upset at the idea that this is starting to catch on. There's a lot of venture capitalists starting to sink some money into Bitcoin-oriented startups. The U.S. government has started to talk to Bitcoin exchanges like Mt. Gox and say, hey, you guys can't conduct your business here unless you register with us and pay taxes just like any bank. So it sounds like the state of California is going after the Bitcoin Foundation for that. But the Bitcoin Foundation doesn't do any of the transmitting any of the money. David, I mean, just knowing what we know about the story, do you think the state is just confused about what Bitcoin does?
Well, this, liken this problem similar to when the music industry went after Napster and, way back when. I mean, Naps are a little bit different because they actually did control the database. You know, if you looked at some of the other P2P technologies like BitTorrent, where they don't really control the database, it's a little bit more similar. But yeah, it's kind of a desperate move at this point. But they have, I think, a lot. This is a little bit different because Bitcoin doesn't have the level of insurance that we have with the banks. You know, if there are fraudulent charges made or a fraudulent transaction made when we deal with credit cards or money in our bank, then there is some level of insurance. You don't have that with Bitcoin. And according to one thing I read, there was something like 45% fraudulent charges or charges that went south on Bitcoin. So that is not a good sign at all. And also, I think also the fear is how much illegal activity may or may not be happening through Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really the issue, right? I mean, part of it is, ooh, this is a new form of money transfer, and people get scared. But there's no regulatory governing body over this. I mean, if you wanted to compare it to something like Square receiving a similar letter in the state of Illinois, I mean, Square is at least using traditional banks. It's just a method of transfer, really, that Square has built to make it convenient for all of us. Bitcoin is a whole type of currency that was basically made up out of thin air.
Yeah, and it doesn't. And the other big thing is it doesn't have the quote backing of gold, which is as vague as is. We don't really. You can't literally go down to Fort Knox and get $5 worth of gold with a $5 note anymore. That's a fallacy now. And I think that was kind of the argument with Bitcoin. Is like we're really not backed by gold anymore.
Well, let's be clear here. Is it the Bitcoin Foundation's responsibility to ensure deposits?
Well, no. Well, that's what they're arguing, is that they're not.
Right.
And yes, going back to your earlier question, it is out of confusion and it is out of desperation. But they have to go after someone, is their attitude. Let's
go after the exchanges then.
Well,
right?
That's a harder play. I think maybe there you have this feel of, all right, well, if we go after the foundation, then maybe they can put pressure on the exchanges. You know, this is, again, a case of we don't really understand what's going on. The Bitcoin transaction situation doesn't make much sense to me either. And also because of the insane fluctuations in the market that, you know, the market in general seems crazy. And there's so many rules and regulations on our actual market of exchanges that this one that doesn't have anything seems really scary. I mean, even scarier than any kind of penny stock market you go into.
But again,
don't we assume that they are going after the exchanges, Tom? I mean, it does seem a little bit like, hey, the Bitcoin Foundation is more of like an awareness non-government organization to help us understand how Bitcoin works a little bit better and support those who are using it. But I mean,
it's an administrative organization. It's the one that says this is how it works. This is how you legitimately encrypt it, and we'll provide the software that does the mining and the wallets, and everything else is up to other people. It'd be sort of like going after the U.S. Mint because your savings and loan had a scandal, right? You don't do that. You don't go over the Mint. Just makes the money. It just prints the money.
Well,
and
also
Bitcoin doesn't even print the money. Bitcoin just provides the software and the system that allows the virtual coins to be created.
Well, then if you cut that off, then it trickles down to Bitcoin not working that well. So, I mean, I guess that's where.
Yeah, but that's not the legal basis they're going after them. That's my problem. Is they're saying you're doing money transmissions, and Bitcoin Foundation is like, no, we don't.
No, yeah.
Actually. Although I guess enabling people
creating
to create.
and then again, this goes back to the whole Napster or BitTorrent issue of, well, you facilitated this to happen. And then, there could be other issues. You're facilitating illegal, financial transactions, drugs, or whatever it may be. So they may sue them for that. But then they may have the argument that goes, well, what power do we have to stop this? Possibly what you're saying, like they could stop updating the software, but the software is already out there. So.
All right, let's move along to something that is even more nebulous than Bitcoin, a Facebook rumor. Woohoo!
Yeah, Wall Street Journal is reporting, and we've heard whispers of this before, that Facebook is indeed building a mobile app. It's been in the works for over a year, displaying content from Facebook users and publishers in a new visual format tailored for mobile devices. Basically, a reader. This is according to unidentified sources, and at least internally, it's being called the Facebook reader. So this would be, again, according to the journal, for iPhones and iPads, which seems a little weird to me just because Facebook has invested so much in Android as of late. But if we are to believe these rumors, the company has explored different ways to highlight news content to users. So you've got public posts, stuff that's trending on the site. The idea is to create an experience that encourages users to spend more time with Facebook. Yeah, that's Facebook likes. And also that would allow Facebook to experiment with more advertising. Now, we've heard that it would be a bit like a Flipboard-like mobile news reader. Flipboard is pretty successful. It has over 50 million users. I'm certainly a happy Flipboard user. I use it every day. But I wonder, with something like Facebook, I mean, Flipboard is really just a nice way to look at a variety of feeds. Facebook has been built on social sharing, what's important to your friends, stuff that's getting the most traction, rises to the top of your news feed. David, do you think that it makes more sense to kind of go traditional RSS for Facebook, or is that just too much of a departure based on how we know Facebook to work now?
No, it'd be pointless for them to go traditional RSS. But Flipboard supposedly shares stuff from your feed from, I believe Twitter and Facebook is what it follows, and it sort of brings what your friends are looking at and sharing.
Yeah, certain Flipboard tiles will do that. And it has introduced its own, you can sort of build your own Flipboard magazine as well and share that with people.
But what a Facebook-style Flipboard magazine could do is actually have true engagement and discussion around the piece, which Facebook's already been building towards this. Like, if you see many blogs, are replacing their comments with Facebook comments. So that could be brought into the pieces as well. So I think this is, they're now trying to control the whole commenting system on the web, on your tablet device, within Facebook as well. And the more hooks they get in, the more you're locked into it. And if that's where your friends are, you're going to start getting hooked.
But I mean,
we'll have to see what they actually come out with and how it actually works. But to my mind, this reminds me of an attempt to replace the local newspaper, like the extremely local newspaper, like your neighborhood newspaper. Except instead of your neighborhood, it's not just geographic, it's the people who are important to you. So the stories that are important to the people who are important to you, their posts, their pictures could all be part of this. So you're seeing like, oh, somebody got married over the weekend. Here's what happened. Here's what people are saying about it. Oh, but here's a news story that a lot of my friends really care about the flooding happening in northern India, perhaps.
But don't you already get that from Facebook on the tablet anyway? I mean,
but not in this kind of presentation, right? This is a really easy to flip through Flipboard-like presentation, which is attractive because it's magazine-like.
Yeah, and that is magazine-like. But one of the things you just mentioned about local, if they could truly do local, and they have the information to do that, they know my location, to deliver also local news, which has been kind of a bugaboo for a lot of media outlets, and hyper-local, that could be a major play for them as well.
I think it'll be interesting to see how much they want to lean on your news feed, because you can tailor your news feed somewhat to say, yeah, this person is my Facebook friend, but I really don't need to see updates from them unless they're, important updates. I have that for a lot of people.
You don't do that to me, Sarah, do you?
Certainly not. But it's more of my prolific high school friends.
She means me.
Yeah, and Tom. Tom is way too chatty on Facebook. But there is something to that, and of course that's the whole foundation. I mean, Facebook's built on your friends and what they're sharing. But at the same time, I've always found that my readers are better when it's just a personal thing. I want to subscribe to the stuff I want to read, and I want to get it delivered to me, and it almost doesn't really matter how my friends are involved, if they're reading the same stuff or not. Because again, I'm trying to just get through a bunch of information, kind of just, it's like a little crunch. But that would sort of be strange if Facebook was to allow me that kind of functionality, because then it's cutting off the social aspects altogether.
I'm looking forward to Faceboard or
are you?
Face News or whatever they call it.
Face News.
Flip Face.
Until we get it, there's even
like
more reader information to come in the show.
Oh yeah. Hold on, folks.
Yeah.
But one last thing is to create it more multimedia-like, so you could actually get Tech News Today directly into it and have it go full screen, and a little bit more multimedia play, which I don't know how much they have of that in Flipboard. Can you play video? You must be able to play video.
Yeah, you can do audio. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
NPR
kind of depends on the feed. It'll open up its own little. It's got its own little browser.
But also have conversation around the feed as well, whether it's live or tape. I mean, that's where I think there could be more of a play.
Let's talk movies. We heard about Disney and Sony experimenting in South Korea with same-day streaming rentals of theater movies. Now, the ones they mentioned, I'm not sure what the release schedules are worldwide, but Django Unchained, Wreck-It Ralph, and Brave sound old to us here in the United States. I'm assuming these must be just things that hadn't come out yet in South Korea. It's not the first time day and date has ever happened, obviously. We've had lots of experiments with it. Alice in Wonderland nearly didn't get screened at Odeon cinemas in the UK and Ireland in 2010 because Disney was just trying to reduce the waiting period. Independent films have often done day and date. But what do you guys think? I mean, we all want this option. Is this going to kill theaters, though, David?
As a father who doesn't go out to go to theaters, when I have the option to go to a theater, I always choose that option because you're getting out of the house. But also because I'm a father, and Jason backed me up on this, also a dad, you don't get to go out to see a lot of movies. So to have this option to be able to watch, like I don't even look at Rotten Tomatoes, what's out or what's, breaking, because I know I can't even go to see a movie. So it's like I stopped looking at that feed. But if I knew that I could watch it at home and I could pay pretty much, theater price, I'd be willing to do that, then that would be a good option. Look, this whole concept of, people just want their content where they want it and when they want it. We've always wanted this. They've held it back from us. So the same people who are saying that are the same ones who are holding it back from us. They realize because of theft and because of the ease ability to trade stuff that they can't keep saying that. So we see all these endless experiments with day and date. I do think people truly value the theater experience. I still value it and would go to it if I had the option of, can I watch it at home or actually go out? I would choose to go out.
Well, I think that's probably, I mean, you make such a great point, is that you're saying you don't even really want to see what's in theaters right now because you can't go and it's just going to depress you. And it's like the studios know that you're not alone. That's a very common sentiment. You hear that all the time, which makes me wonder, why do people have kids again? But, if you're not going to be able to go to a movie, but you're willing to pay.
Kids are more fun than a movie. I should point that out.
Well, good. I'll keep that in my back pocket.
But it also depends on the movie and the time of the day with the kid.
Right.
Well, don't forget the theater owners. It's the theater owners that don't want day and date streaming. The studios would love it as long as they can charge whatever they want. It's the theater owners who are like balking and saying, well, we won't carry your movie if you put a competitor out there that is easy for people to watch the movie at home.
Theater owners would love it if none of us had televisions at all. And then the only video we could watch would be in a theater. I mean, if they truly had their way. And there was a time that truly existed, that people didn't have television. The only way they could watch news or movies was actually going to a theater.
That's right.
Those days are long over.
Well, there's also George Lucas's prediction that theaters will become this, this event experience. It's very, over the top and allowing something way beyond just watching a movie from beginning to end, which I have to think that's probably a really good idea because, it's not just about a big screen and good audio anymore because people have that in their houses now.
Yeah, but we all enjoy movies a lot better when we're physically in the theater with other people and getting that experience.
Well, no, the other people actually is the part I don't enjoy at all because they're loud and annoying.
So what do you enjoy more?
Theater? Yes. It all depends on where you're going. I think 5 and 10 years from now, we'll look back on this. We probably won't remember this particular item, but we'll say, oh yeah, I remember when they started experimenting with this. Now it's run of the mill. Theaters have adapted. Theaters have changed. Dine-in theaters, big event theaters. It's just what David said. It takes a long time for the establishment to let go of the old ways of doing things and experiment with the new ways because they're afraid of losing the money. And sometimes theater owners, they did this with television. That's a very good point. And it didn't run theaters out of business, but it did change how theaters work.
And that's the thing, it changes. And also, they're going to have to change the experience in the theater, add new experience in the theater to make people want to go there. And we've seen, more and more experiments like this already to make that experience better. And I enjoy going to the theater. Again, depends the crowd, but I always appreciate it when I can do it.
I feel like IMAX is an event movie theater experience, right? Like you go to IMAX because it's an event and it's something different than what you can get at home. As the definition and film is shot like Peter Jackson is doing, and they're experimenting with these wider resolution options and things that actually look amazing on huge screens, then that sets it apart, right? You could watch it at home, but you get this incredible experience in this huge, gigantic movie theater because it looks so much better. Maybe that'll be the change.
Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor for today's show, Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website, blog, portfolio, or online store. I use it for several of my sites because it's easy, because it's reliable, because I know that I don't have to think about uptime. And Squarespace is taking care of all of that. They're taking care of the design. They're taking care of the commerce. They've got a back end for selling stuff. It's easy to use, fast and easy. Everything is drag and drop. Page builder tool, layout engine is what it's called, but you don't have to know that. It just lets you customize pages in seconds. You want a video? You add a block that says video. You want some text in a little box there? You just added that. Social media content, put it right in there. Just a few clicks. And their style editor tool allows you to select your fonts, your colors, your layouts, customize the templates the way you want without having to know a single line of code. If you do have no code, they let you in. It's not like they're trying to block you off. They let you in and tweak the code if you want. But you don't have to. Believe me, I know some of the code, and I still use the layout engine because it's just so much faster and so much easier. Plus, I love the mobile experience. If you make a Squarespace site, you don't have some weird thing where like your whole site just looks tiny on a phone screen or some strange mobile version that's crippled. What they do is they take your actual site and they just tweak the layout with their award-winning design so it looks right on that screen, but it still has all the things that you want it to have as you would get on a big desktop screen. Squarespace integrates all your website needs into one platform: domains, design, development, commerce, hosting, 24/7 customer support. Go try it out. Don't even take my word for it. Please go right now. Squarespace.com. Sign up for a free account if you're like, I don't have my wallet on. You don't have to give them a credit card to try it out. Just start building your website. Import your old blog. If you decide to purchase it, use offer code TNT6 and get 10% off your first purchase on new accounts. That includes monthly and annual plans. And don't forget about free domain registration for annual plan customer subscriptions. That's squarespace.com. Use that offer code TNT6. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. And we thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. All right, Google, rumored to be, there's some screenshots anyway linked, something called Google Mine that, like, what, tracks my possessions?
Yeah. Right? Amber and I talked about this on the social hour on Friday, and the two of us were like, okay, let's really try to rack our brains and figure out why we'd want to use something like this. The idea is that Google Mine would be integrated with Google+. So if I've got belongings, maybe a variety of comic books or some electronics or even clothing or a particular kind of vacuum cleaner that I might feel passionately about, positive or negatively, I could choose to share that information to a particular circle, other people like-minded, to kind of rate and review and spread the word about stuff that you actually own or stuff that you'd like to. There's a little bit of like an Amazon wish list functionality that's built into this as well. So apparently this would be a web experience, and then obviously available on Android as well. It is a Google property after all. But I cannot, for the life of me, figure out why Google would want to build something like this beyond knowing more about the stuff I own and care about in order to advertise to me better.
That would be awesome for Google.
Exactly.
I can't remember the name of it, but there were examples of companies like this before where you could take your entire DVD collection and just scan the barcode of all of them, and all of a sudden it would create a web version of your entire library that you could either trade or sell to other people. Similar with books, you could scan, the code on your books as well.
Well, there's Gadget, GT, where you add your gadgets.
That can do with Gadget. Now, first of all, I can't remember the name of this DVD and book thing as well.
I remember that service.
Yeah, but did it take off? Are people excited about it? I mean, I don't know. Did they look at that? Maybe Google bought the companies. I have no idea. I mean, what happened to them, and does anyone care?
I think the whole idea of having a virtual representation of physical goods within the Google system, to me, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm sure that there are some enthusiasts, especially, you know, around certain products and brands that go, yeah, actually, I'd really like this functionality. I don't think it's like a widespread need, though. I think it's a way for Google to just say, what is it that you're passionate about exactly? Because we would like to know that information about you.
I mean, I would like to use this, but I don't want to have to do the data entry. That's always the problem with these things. If it would just like could scan my room and say, here's an inventory of everything that's in there, I would love to have that, because then I think this is where Google may be going with this. I go on Google Plus, not just to share with my friends, hey, look at all the stuff I own, but hey, I'm getting rid of this camera. Anybody want it? And all the specs and the pictures are already pre-populated. It's just click of a button. So I see the benefits after it's all in there in lots of different ways, but trying to maintain that, I think probably, David, is why this stuff doesn't work.
Well, no, but I think that it's actually, just realizing it is actually a smart move in one sense, is that there are a lot of these cataloging programs out there for records and for comic books and CDs, books, whatnot, electronics with Gadget. The thing is, they're all specific markets. If Google creates something that is cross markets, then it will get the enthusiast for each one of these markets, and that's a more valuable play than trying to go to any one specific market, which is what all these have done previously.
Virgil wants to know if it would go well with Google Glass.
There's your answer. Exactly what you said. Virgil's 100% right. You just look around your room, you've scanned your room, you're done. Perfect.
Maybe Google Mine has a lot more to do with like, hey, here are some actual helpful things you can do with your Google Glass. For example, let's build something where people can look around a room and say, I own this, put it in my database.
Yeah.
Share it with my circle.
Or you're visiting a friend's house and it tells you how many books on the shelf are the same as the ones you own. So you can immediately know how much you get
compatible you are.
No, but I see the potential for dating here. You go to a bar and you look at all the women you're interested in, and then you just start cataloging them into your digital black book. It goes follow up, follow up, follow up with all them.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Gartner projections that just came out. It's the usual stuff, nothing terribly surprising here. Device shipments expected to rise 5.9% in 2013. That's all kinds of gadgets. A third of the devices will run Android. That may sound high to some people. PCs will fall 10%. Mobile phones up 4.3%. Tablets will rise 68%. Still a young market. Ultra mobile is an interesting category in here. They're not quite sure what's going to happen. They think it's going to go up, but long term, they're not sure where it's going. Chromebooks, tablet PC hybrids, non-traditional phablets all form that ultra mobile category because they don't know what else to call it, I guess. But what I found interesting in the TechCrunch interpretation of this, they pointed out that Apple is winning at the ecosystem. So 90% of Android's devices are mobile phones. 85% of Microsoft's devices are PCs, but Apple has a nice, smooth, even distribution. So they get people to use their phone, their PC, and their tablet. Samsung is moving along in this direction as well. And as we heard in the news views, maybe Android is as well. We've got a couple of all-in-one PCs now that run Android, although where Chrome OS fits into all of this, I'm not sure. But the question I'm wondering is, can Android and Windows mimic that ecosystem success that Apple and Samsung have? And is that enough to keep Apple and Samsung safe if they keep going along that way?
I think the ecosystem's actually locked to three different things, and that is your music, your contacts, and your apps. Whatever device that you choose to put that information on, you're never moving to another device. So if my music's all on the iPhone, my contacts are there, and I purchase all my apps there, the cost for me to leave, even if it's the most phenomenal thing, someone hands me one for free, it's too costly for me to jump.
What about all the cloud services that can absolutely help you upload all of that information somewhere and then download to whatever device
Well, the real lock is the apps. The real lock is the app, because apps are not transferable from Android to...
But
so that's the thing, but those are the three hooks.
Would be. If Dropbox has got apps across platforms.
If, that's a lot of ifs.
Amazon has apps across platforms. I mean, there's examples.
The big apps, they're all...
No, but the day that you figure out how to easily make... Because, yes, there is some ways to make that move. And again, there's, it's the price to exit. The more you can lock those three things in, you got them locked on your platform.
Well, but see, that's what's driving me away from Apple, is the fact that I'm locked into using their devices. I actually would like to go and use whatever device I want. So I stopped using iTunes to manage my music. I use Amazon now because I know it doesn't matter what the next phone I buy is. I can access my music on it, unless it's a BlackBerry, I guess. I'm not sure if Amazon works with that. But and that's to your point, David, is that the apps aren't 100% universal, but I'm trying to get myself into cloud services that are independent of the device makers just because of that.
No, and you're right, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. In fact, I personally just had a pretty disastrous experience with some contact information that was in a proprietary format that I couldn't get out, and I literally hired someone to copy and paste. It's not the whole contact, but a certain piece of information over for 4,000 records. And I realized after that experience, no matter how good any technology is or any software, if I do not have an export standard format, I am not touching it because I do not want to get burned. And this kind of stuff happens, and it's going to happen all the time.
And I think I think you have a really good point, David. There are a lot of people who, it's not as if we don't have the tools to move. It's just that it seems like a hassle.
Yeah, it's called cost to exit. Yeah, it's cost to exit. What is it going to cost me to get out of this? You know, if you had to completely move over to a new system, what would it cost you? And again, that's why I say even a free device, sometimes it's not an incentive.
Well, and that's the issue that Windows has, right? Is it's going to be a hassle. It might be somewhat painful, you know, with contacts and that sort of thing. And if that's the case, then you have to have a really good reason. And I just don't think enough people are saying the Windows mobile experience is worth it.
Well, it should be one of Microsoft's advantages, though, right? Because if you're in Outlook with contacts and using Microsoft Office, that should make sense. You should move to a Windows phone because everything is already there. It should be the ecosystem lock-in that's working to their advantage.
And the Windows phones are really good, but I mean, perfect example about the free thing. Windows, when Microsoft gave away one of their first generations of Windows phones to cloud users, I got one of them, and I still didn't switch. So it's an example of I got something for free, but again, it was too costly for me to switch. And then also that throws in the carrier. I would have had to switch carriers too.
You're going to have to switch off of Google Reader. Here's an example of relying on a cloud service that goes away. What might happen? Google very thankfully had a standard system. So you can export this RSS. And AOL, as we mentioned in the news fuse, is now one of the competitors. What'd you find, Sarah?
Well, so earlier in the show, we talked about Facebook's Reader. At least that's what they're calling it internally. AOL has a version of that that's a reality, and it's called AOL Reader.
Nice.
Because that's what everyone is, I don't know, nobody's being very, I think they're basically just trying to be like, it's as close to Google Reader as it can possibly be.
You can't trademark Reader, right?
Let's just call it Reader. Yeah, so this is a real thing. I'm actually running it. I went ahead and imported my Google Reader info into AOL Reader this morning. It was fairly seamless. Yeah, what you have to do is you just transfer over an XML file that Google Reader allows you to export relatively easily, and then go ahead and upload it into AOL Reader, and I was propagated within minutes. So you're looking at a certain view. What's kind of nice about Google Reader here is I've got some options based on how I want it to look. So I'm in my tech category. Now I see my variety of articles, and then I can click into the article. That's kind of how I like to look at readers, but you could do something that's a little bit more visual. You've got sort of a card view here, or I know Tom likes things to be really, really simple, so you can just have like your standard list view. Let's just get through this stuff, get through my Verge articles, get through my Ars articles. My other categories are here as well. For something like my cooking folder, I might do better with more visuals. We'll do sort of a full view because obviously this is, partly based on what the food looks like. Of course, I'm pulling up something that isn't very visual. There you go. We got some popsicles here. But for the most part, this is basic stuff. You want to add a feed, you go ahead and do that. You give it a tag. What is different about AOL Reader, of course, if you want to compare it to something like Feedly, is AOL's already an established brand. So we've got our basically ads here for AOL original programming called AOL On Originals. We talked about some of those I don't know, a month ago when it launched. We've got nice little links for AOL Mail, so people who actually use AOL Mail can jump over to that specifically. AOL On has its own button here. You know, you can go straight to AOL.com. You've got a nice little AOL search here, which actually uses Google search for results. But this is not a bad product at all. It is still in beta, by the way, and you can log in and start using the service via your AOL credentials. But you can also, because I don't have AOL Mail. I don't even know if I ever did. But I logged in through Twitter. You can use Facebook as well, or your Google credentials. This is not bad stuff, but I'm just not sure. Unless I really loved AOL and I felt like I was hanging out at AOL.com all the time, that I would ever use this over something that didn't push its own agenda at me.
Well, I've always used Google Reader more of as a research tool, not in my daily news feed. I was still leaning on actually Google News for that. But don't you use it more as kind of a research tool? Like, oh, I need to check out what's going on in this category right now?
Well, I mean, I know for TNT, we just read so many news stories that this is sometimes just the way that I'm like, okay, I'm going to go deep into news for a while.
Well, it's also a super fast way to do it. And also, it looks more full-featured than Google Reader, too.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing, honestly. I mean, I don't think
it looks almost the same as Google Reader.
It didn't.
To me.
Yeah. Google Reader didn't do as nice on the previews, though. I didn't think.
Google Reader was pretty bare bones, yeah, as far as design was concerned. But then if you compare this to something like Feedly, I mean, I feel like this is a little bit more stripped down. This is intended to look more like Google Reader than to try to reinvent something, from the RSS category in general. Tom, what do you think about AOL Reader? You said you still have an AOL email address. Is this for you?
I had a Netscape email address that became an AOL email
Does anyone
address.
email you to that address?
No, I don't even know if it works. I haven't checked it in years. But I look at this, and if this had been available day one, I might have switched to this because it's so familiar. What I want to know is, what have I read? What haven't I read? And can I mark things to put into the dock later for TNT, right? That's my personal use case. And this could do all of that stuff, but Feedly does it too. And I think Feedly does it better. This doesn't have apps. Feedly has apps. This also, hilariously, I subscribe to TechCrunch already, but it's still telling me, hey, just so you know, TechCrunch, an AOL property, is also a recommended source that you could add, even though you've already got it somehow. So there is a little bit of the AOL pushiness. I mean, all these recommended sources over here are AOL properties. I guess that's to be expected. But yeah, like you said, Sarah, for me, nothing making me want to switch off of the solution I've already found, which is Feedly.
Yeah. Then we've got Dig Reader too. That's any day now. So
yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday.
We're never gonna stop talking about companies calling their RSS products readers.
We are going to stop right now though, because we have to talk about drone delivered burritos in the random.
Awesome.
Now, this comes from Yelp. Actually, a couple Yelp employees who developed this in a Yelp hackathon. It's a drone and an app, and then the app can control the drone and tell it where to deliver its package, and its package is, in fact, a carne asada burrito.
I'm dealing with pre-roll right now. It didn't do this to me earlier.
But I obviously have stunned the panel into silence.
It's the best thing ever. I can't eat. First of all, I'm a huge fan of burritos, and I'm a huge fan of home delivery too. So you're combining two of the best things in the world. Oh, here it is. Dropping off
now,
a
they
burrito.
can't do this commercially yet. They're hoping the FAA will loosen the restrictions on commercial use of drones by 2015. They also have some tweaking. They have to launch it manually right now. They'd like it to launch automatically whenever a burrito is needed. They never go into the CNN article about freshness or how the burrito gets in the drone, which would be a concern of mine as well. I don't want a burrito that's just been circling for 24 hours dropped to me.
Oh, it's fine up there. It's a burrito.
It'll be like those burritos in the convenience store that have just been in the heater case, forever.
Yeah, or they only deliver on really hot, warm, sunny days.
Oh, yeah.
Because then it cooks on the way to you.
I love the idea of this because a proper burrito, it's wrapped nice and tight, and then you got the tin foil around it. I mean, it can drop. I mean, what are you going to do? Make it look worse? I mean, it's already a bunch of stuff just thrown in there together anyway.
It looks like they have a nice sturdy case for it, too.
Yeah. It's sort of the perfect food to rain from the sky.
And unless you're the one that it's landing on top of.
I don't know. I think I'd be like, ow, that hurt. Yeah, I've got a burrito.
That hurt so good.
And
many things have hurt in my life, but none of them have the reward of burrito.
All right, let's see what's on the calendar.
The $99 Ooh Yeah console is debuting in the U.S., the U.K., and Canada tomorrow, June 25th. You might remember it was originally set for June 4th. Got delayed a few weeks, so tomorrow's the big day. And Project X Zone is crossing over into the U.S. tomorrow as well. This is a strategy RPG for the 3DS, which was co-developed by Monolith Soft and Banpresto. So there are basically characters from Namco, Bandai, Sega, and Capcom that are, it's sort of this life thing. They're all gonna have this kind of fun life together. Project X Zone was originally announced for Japan, but now is committed to the U.S. and Europe, had committed to the U.S. and Europe earlier this year. So U.S. tomorrow.
Woo, Project X Zone. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Why, look, it's a message, Sarah.
It's an electronic one from Jamie, who says, Jamie is a massive Twit fan living in Bristol in the UK. Hello. Jamie says, I'm just listening to episode 780 where you're talking about what to encrypt. There's more and more talk about encrypting everything with the theory that you don't then look suspicious because encrypting is the norm. But isn't that counterproductive? If it was only the bad guys who encrypted stuff, then the good guys would be able to spot them in a bunch of net traffic much easier. The idea of all of us encrypting everything plays right into the bad guys' hands as we're then masking their nasty data. What are your thoughts?
It's a very interesting theory. I think that is kind of an intriguing theory. I never thought of it that way. But then again, we've had like PGP email encryption for a long time, and everyone said, why don't we just all adopt it? And people just don't do it.
That's the bigger issue, right? It's people actually getting into the habit of using it.
Doing it. But one of the habits we do have is locking our front doors. But a lot of people don't have the habit of actually putting a password to protect their computer or password protect their phone. I mean, security and individual responsibility are greatly varying, and on top of it all, when they do get their security taken or their privacy taken away, they get very, very upset. They always think it's somebody else's responsibility rather than their own. So,
well, I want to address what Jamie's saying here about we should not encrypt our stuff so that only bad guys are encrypting stuff, and then you can tell it's bad guys, because that's the problem, is that we should have the right to keep our own communications private without being assumed to be bad guys. So I feel like if we did that, that would make it worse. That I was like, oh, so I have to live a public life because I'm not doing anything wrong.
Another good point, too.
You know, so that to me, it's, yes, you should encrypt everything, not because you're necessarily trying to flood the market with encrypted stuff to hide the bad guys. You should encrypt everything because it's in your own best interest to just make sure that nobody that you know or don't know is looking at your stuff can see it unless you want them to.
And also, you don't know whether it's the truly private stuff or the not so private stuff.
Yeah.
So if you just encrypt everything, that's the case.
Yeah, you don't. I don't think you go after the bad guys by looking for people who are protecting their privacy, because there are lots of very good.
But again,
reasons.
we do this in our life. Like, let me guess, you guys have very, very secure passwords for your financial institutions, and for your login account to NewYorkTimes.com. Probably not the same kind of a password, right? I mean, we do that. We create stronger passwords for things that we think are more important, and for things we're like, well, I don't really care. I'll make this one a weak password.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, let's. You shouldn't do that, by the way. Definitely don't make the same password for anything.
Oh, by the way, Tom, this just in: Mick Jagger has joined Instagram. Just thought you guys might like to know that.
Finally,
happy Monday.
I'm back on Instagram, Mick. I'm with you. That's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks, everybody, for watching. David Spark, thank you for joining us.
Thanks
Let folks know where they can find what you're up to these days.
Just go to sparkmediasolutions.com. That's the business site. I have a really fun reel there. Leo makes a quick appearance on that video. And
nice.
Follow me on Twitter at @dspark. And I was at a super fun conference last week called the Velocity Conference down in Santa Clara, all about speeding up applications and websites like a second or two, and it was kind of fascinating, the discussion on that one topic alone. 3 days of it.
Check it out, sparkmediasolutions.com. Also, check out our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com, place to let us know what stories you'd like us to cover, submit them, vote on them, even comment on them in some cases. Check it out, technewstoday.reddit.com. You can also find us on the web all the time, twit.tv/TNT, get links to show notes and wikis and things like that. You can call us, leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW, and email us, tnt@twit.tv. We'll be back tomorrow. So will Ayaz, and Chris Knoll will join us as our guest. We'll see you then.